All right. Well, I just wanted to give a quick update. So, contacted NetGain and ordered a new motor from them. Probably should have told them I didn't need it painted and didn't even need it assembled or broken in because I'm going to put my own brushes. But no offense, NetGain, not big fan of the red color and took off all the paint, the clear coat like I usually did. A couple of things I want to mention before I reassemble. So they actually did some mods to the motor. One is they chamfered all of the comm bars. Should help with arcing. Another thing is on the bell. Here, they put a coat of Gliptol. Well, this color is actually Gliptol, but it's a high dielectric paint specifically made for electric motors. And the idea there is to help prevent arcing over to the bell. Also, while I had the motor apart, seeing as I had the arcing over to the housing, I also did a coat of Gliptol on the outside there. One thing I want to mention on Gliptol is that it is not a magic cure-all for everything. You can't just coat the entire motors and then suddenly you can do hundreds and hundreds of volts. It can help. It's not going to necessarily hurt. Obviously, I wouldn't put it on bearings or any kind of or the comms or any of those surfaces, but at least some dielectric barriers so that when you get a plasma ball, it doesn't want to attach to any bare metal and find a better current path than the air, which once it breaks through a dielectric barrier, anything on the motor is going to be a better path than the air. We saw last time the arcing occurred, went into the motor housing, into the field windings, and then back out on the other side, which obviously had a fair bit of damage as a result. Alright, so also want to show a quick assembly on motor. These things are really simple. Two bearings, one on either side. This is the newer Warp 9. It's actually one of the things I also want to bring up. So this has a 1 1/8" shaft on the bell side, and flipping over the motor, it has no counter bore on this side. It's a solid shaft there. So this is actually a replacement shaft that's going to go in this one. This is the one I was trying to reassemble for the race, and then I had found the crack between the counter bore and the keyway. So I'll push this one back out and put this one in. A couple of improvements from the previous motor. So all the motors I ran are circa 2008, 2009. These are 6-year, 8-year-old motors. And they've made improvements over the years. So obviously the oldest ones, you can always tell the really old NetGains because they actually have a hex head bolt sticking on the outside. All the newer ones, they went to a counter bore, a countersink, so that it's a smooth surface. 3/8" terminals on the old motors. New motors are 1/2". I mean, you can see the size difference there. A lot better current carrying capability. And another thing I liked was there is one of these sides here. It's drilled and tapped, so if you want, you can put I'm assuming, a magnetic proximity sensor in there, so that as the fan spins, you can pick up RPM that way. And I might go that route, because all my old RPM tacks were 7/8". This is 1 inch, what they offer nowadays. So assembly's pretty simple. I like using these old Space Saver tires. Help keep everything upright, easy to work on, and don't usually get thrown away anyway. Let's stop it for a second, then. Yes. All right. So I'm going to install the housing on. Obviously, when you're installing it, very careful that you don't, you're dropping it straight down. not rubbing on anything. Don't want to get any nicks or any damage. Now, obviously we'll line up the housing with the bolt holes. This orientation isn't important, but the important one is the end bell. There are the wave washers that come in. Make sure that those are installed. And line up the bolts. So your terminals should line up in the neutral position. Now I'm not doing neutral. For most applications, I'm going to do counterclockwise rotation, so that this bolt will line up with the counterclockwise rotation. That's nicely stamped on the outside of the motor. If you were doing a Honda or anything that's bizarre, then you actually go over the counterclockwise rotation. But these motors are really set up, and pretty sure they ship with advanced timing for the counterclockwise rotation. Get started. Don't just crank down all the way on one side. Alternate. Now normally the motor comes fully assembled. You don't have to mess with this at all, but I thought people would be interested to see what was on the inside. I usually tear them down to this level before a race, so I'm going to do that to the trans warp over there. And I'll come back and actually torque these. For right now, good. I'll flip the motor over and put the bolts in from the drive end, and that will be it. Well, it won't be it. Obviously, installing the brushes, I showed you how to do that in the other videos. It's a really simple operation. Just take off the screws, pull back the springs, so you can pull out the brushes and check them. I was happy to see that these motors came already set, so they actually wore in the brushes. I'm not sure I'm going to use those brushes. I think they're perfectly they're great for street use, but I did order the higher end brushes from Lone Star that I use in this. They're a little chipped up. I'll just clean them up and still be able to use those. But like I said, there's really not much to them. There are 2 sets of snap switches on the newer net gains. So these snap switches will, when the temperature windings in here go above 120, temperature in the windings goes above, I think it's 120 for the warp 9s, the snap switch will go off, and then you can wire it up and get an indication if you are over temping the motor. That works for long durations, if you're like doing a long highway drive or a road race or something like that, but drag racing, it doesn't help. By the time the heat is actually soaked through to the windings, if you got that hot, you've probably blown up something else. Hopefully not. All right, well, so I'll do the same thing for the trans warp there. I'll do a video showing step by step pressing out the shaft on this motor and pressing in the new shaft. Showed bits of that, but I was more concentrated on trying to get things done for the race than making a good video. Of course, you can argue that none of my videos are good, but hopefully they're at least interesting. Well, stay tuned for more.